Good evening. Would you kindly remove your hats, please, and all rise while we recite the council prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Let us honor America by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Lenzi.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Here.
9 present.
The chair would like to recognize Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for 2 lovely ladies who graced this world and left it remarkably early. They were both remembered for their kindness, gentleness, and devotion to city and family. First is 57-year-old Carol McAuliffe, a lifelong resident of the city of Lowell, daughter of Bob and Arlene McAuliffe, a graduate of the Immaculate Conception School, Academy of Notre Dame in Tingsboro, and Castle Hill Junior College. She leaves behind 4 sisters, Arlene, Joan, Phyllis, and Nancy, as well as 1 brother, Paul, and is predeceased by her brother, Robert, who died in 2001. Secondly, Patricia Pat O'Connor Keegan, beloved wife of William, for 21 wonderful years. For 35 years, Mrs. Keegan was an educator in the City of Lowell public school system. She taught at the Edith Nurse Rogers School, was an acting principal at the Coburn School, and most recently taught science at the Morey School. Although she loved teaching, her greater passion was golf. She was a member of Mount Pleasant since 1970. Pat was the past president of the ladies division and played for Mount Pleasant team in every women's city tournament except this past year due to her illness. Surviving Pat, in addition to her husband Bill, are her sisters Kathy O'Connor and Jacqueline O'Connor Healy, many nieces and nephews, as well as many very dear friends. Both these women will be truly missed, and tonight in the paper I noticed that I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Rupshan Israni. He was born in Pakistan. He graced our city, very much a service to the city. He leaves behind 6 daughters and 2 sons, one of which is Lowell Israni, who is an employee at the Lowell Housing Authority. He will be truly missed as well. I knew him very well. He was a wonderful man, and I was sorry to see this tonight. Thank you very much.
May we all stand for a moment of silence in darkened chambers, and please remove your hats. Thank you. Thank you. May they rest in peace. Moving on with the agenda, we are honored to have some teenagers in our audience who have gone above and beyond to help our senior citizens at Father Norton Manor. And I have a citation for each one of them. And first of all, I'd like to recognize Chris Connors and Tubby Fio of the Tewksbury Hockey League, who have done outstanding work at Father Norton Manor, and also Alan Parquette and his brother Stephen Parquette of Troop 7 Boy Scouts of Lowell. I will read one citation, and then I will follow it up with presenting the citations to these 4 outstanding young men. The citation, be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby thanks Chris Connors of the Tewksbury Youth Hockey League. Chris is part of a group of young men who have volunteered at the annual cookout at Father Norton Manor and performed other odd jobs to improve the lives of the residents. The entire City of Lowell is proud to honor Chris Connor for his commitment to the seniors of Lowell, given this 27th day of January in the year 2009. But let us all put our hands together, not only for Chris, but for Tubby, Theo, Alan Paquette, and Stephen Paquette for going above and beyond to help residents in our city. God bless you. How about a round of applause for these people? And Steve, whatever you want. Would you like to say a few words to the viewing audience, the council? Put your hands together.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say a few words about these youngsters, because every year I get invited to their annual senior outing at Father Norton Manor. Joe Fardin is there, along with Barbara Estes, and many of the seniors that organize this. And it's not so easy to go out and get the food and cook it up on the grill and pass it out to the seniors. And I know those youngsters are there every single year as part of the service to the community. And I know how great we think about reading in the paper the bad things that happen, but this is the good things that happen that sometimes go left unsaid. But I want to publicly thank the youngsters, because I see them each and every year. They look so happy to be helping out, and that's what our youth are all about. You give them a chance and they step forward. So congratulations for being so kind to the seniors. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank these young men for the job they've done. I think we've all been to the Father Norton Manor Cookout at one point, and they do such a great job. And I want to thank Joe and the staff that works with him for the job they do also. And once again, I want to thank the young men. Thanks.
Councilor Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that now I know which one Tubby was, because I thought it was this young man over here. But I also want to thank them. I think it's a terrific thing, and I also want to wish Joe back to good health. And,
Joe Fardham, you deserve a lot of credit too for you're always on the phone with the council and the mayor, and you're working hard for your fellow seniors at the Father Norton Manor. And in the lobby, I was speaking to Alan and Stephen Paquette, and they are going to go on to become Eagle Scouts, which is a great accomplishment. We wish you the best on that endeavor. So thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you. And moving on with the agenda, this young man needs no introduction. When Council Martin was the mayor, Mayor Martin, we went to the Holy Ghost grounds, and this young man raised a substantial amount of money for Lowell General Hospital for cancer research. He really is an outstanding young man, and I welcome to the council chambers Matt Vieira. Friends who are association, Matt, the podium is yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councilors, for having me here this evening. I just wanted to say a couple of words. My name is Matt Vieira. I am the president and founder of Friends Who Care Association. FWCA is an association that was established here in Lowell to benefit cancer care patients and their families in the Merrimack Valley. Together with Lowell General Hospital, we work to provide cancer patients with the best and most comprehensive care available to them and their families. A cancer diagnosis is devastating not only to the patient themselves, but to their families and friends. And it affects them both financially and emotionally. I was honored, well, I don't want to say honored, but unfortunately, this year my aunt was diagnosed with cancer and was treated at Lowell General Hospital. And I was able to see firsthand where some of the funds have actually gone because she was benefited by the transportation that Lowell General provides. But together, we can make a difference and assist cancer patients in fighting their battle. Last year, as Mayor Caulfield said, we raised a proud $14,665 at our annual Cancer Care Dinner Dance. This year, our event takes place on March 14th at the Holy Ghost Society in Lowell. It's off of Rogers Street. We were honored to have Councilor Rita Mercier with us last year, and she gave a warm welcome on behalf of the City of Lowell, and we were blessed to have her joining us once again this year, and it would be our honor to have the remainder of the City Council to join us as well. More information can be found on our website at www.friendswhocareassociation.com. I look forward to working with you all in the near future, and I ask you to please join me as we walk down the same path together so that hope can finally become a reality. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Matthew Vieira. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercier. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted and placed on file. Communications from Manager Lynch. Any councilors have any questions about those communications? If not, accept the communications, place them on file by Council Mercier, seconded by Council Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those communications are accepted and placed on file. The chair would now like to recognize Council Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Considering the fact there's a lot of people here this evening, probably one of the petitions by Sandra Mangado to address the City Council regarding the homeless encampments, if perhaps we could take that out of order and allow this person to speak. A lot of people are here to hear that. Although I know on the agenda there are a lot of things like item 10, which would talk about One Family Inc., and different things to talk about homelessness and the things that they would be interested in, if you would mind that we take them out of order.
I believe, Councilor, that the issue they want to speak on is on the petition. So we'll just take the petition out of
Okay,
sequence.
sure.
And
But they're
motion by
welcome to
Councilor
stay.
Mercier to take the petition out of sequence regarding the council, regarding the homeless issue, encampments and so forth. So motion by
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier,
Thank
seconded
you.
by Councilor Mercier, to take this out of sequence. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And to speak on this issue, very important issue, I might say, is Sandra Mangado, also Angela Thomas, Jimmy Currier, and Gary Moore. You have 4 minutes or less to address the council, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Council, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your leniency in allowing all of us to speak. My name's Alex DeFranzo. I'll be speaking in place of Sandra. We came before you on December 9th with several requests. The requests that were referred to City Manager Lynch's office. They were to be prepared for the Housing Subcommittee within 30 days. It's now been 49 days, so we were just curious if the report was available, and if so, what progress, if any, has been made in that regard.
Is that a question?
Yes.
To who?
City Manager Lynch.
City Manager Lynch?
I'm sorry, we were just discussing something else. Could you repeat that question?
Yes. 30 days ago, or 49 days ago, there was, we had a request in, and it was referred to City Manager Lynch on a few different topics: a police protocol for evacuating homeless camps, integrating, homelessness into citywide discussion. And we were just curious if there was any progress on that report.
Well, we haven't met with this housing subcommittee as of yet, but I think in terms of the city's involvement with the issue of homelessness, I mean, I think that's pretty clear and speaks for itself. The city has, over the last 2.5 years, embarked upon a 10-year plan to end homelessness. We have that plan in place. It's now in the process of being implemented. We also had an issue that's particular to this year, specific to this year, with regards to the winter protocol, and I called a meeting of the various shareholders, stakeholders back in November to discuss this with the Transitional Living Center to try to, if you may or may not know, that the Transitional Living Center had determined that they would not be able to have the winter protocol in place this year due to a lack of funding by the Transitional Living Center. We I called a meeting of the people together, and we did embark upon a fundraising effort that has proven to be very successful. The winter protocol was put back in place in December, actually I think late November, early December. It has been kept in place, and we've raised a substantial sum of money to, through our efforts, through grantor agencies, as well as working with the state to keep the winter protocol going throughout the remainder of this year. That was a top priority in my office, and we were able to accomplish that. Although we haven't been able to make the official announcement on that yet, we're still waiting for the official. We were waiting for the cash to come in from the various funding agencies, but we were successful in locating those funds. With regards to the police protocol, actually, Superintendent LaValle is here, and the superintendent has worked on this with my office, and perhaps Superintendent LaValle can discuss the protocol that we've put in place to deal with the issue of the encampments. As you know, as I think the council certainly knows, it's a difficult issue because, generally speaking, many of these encampments have taken place on private property. And there's a mix of issues here. One is certainly the recognition that we do have a problem of homelessness here in the city, that given our other actions in terms of trying to create additional housing opportunities, we have made clear we want to address that problem. But we also have the fact that there are laws regarding people's use of property that does not belong to them. So we're trying to balance all of that, and the superintendent has put in place a protocol to deal with that issue. Perhaps the superintendent could speak to the directive that he's issued to his department.
Shortly after the events in December, the command staff of the Lowell Police Department met, and we just had a lengthy discussion regarding these particular issues. Certainly, we understood that the arrival of a police officer demanding that people leave the area immediately or within half an hour, 45 minutes is problematic for many of the people who are at that location. So we asked our command staff to consider and to implement a protocol that would allow us to deal with these issues in a way that would be more advantageous for those people who are being asked to leave, but also would also deal with the problems of the property owners. So we expect that if we do receive a call like this again, and this was a call generated by a private company that asked us to come to their property and have the area vacated, we would request that a superior officer be immediately dispatched to the scene to work with the people who are there and the property owner to make sure that we do things that, keeping in mind the sensitivity of the issue, and we're not trying to force people into a situation that would make it more difficult for them. So it's certainly, we understand that in these matters, people who are living in these homeless conditions have property, they have other items that certainly they don't want to have thrown in the back of a dump truck and taken away. I appreciate that, and we have instituted a protocol to allow for to handle the situation in a more sensitive way. We also have worked, particularly through the course of the winter on these very cold nights, with the Transitional Living Center, and sent our officers to work with their people to try to locate any people in the city who may be in harm's way. We certainly don't want to see people who are out in these encampments in jeopardy in any way. We want to make sure that we can get them into shelter at the Lowell Transitional Living Center, and hopefully that would prevent them from being, frostbitten or even worse than that, suffering from a serious injury or even death. So we are taking steps to deal with that particular issue. I would think that as we get closer to the warmer months, we have to develop strategies and to deal with people who have set up encampments on private property. And, we must understand that the conditions in some of these encampments, they're not idyllic. There are problems that exist. There are people there who potentially could be have substance abuse issues and other issues that might cause problems at that location. And sometimes people are victimized. So we have to take that into consideration when we deal with the homeless, and we're as compassionate as we can be, but we also have to, enforce the law and do the best we can to, the rights of the property owner have to be upheld. So that's the plan we have.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Could we have your name and address, please?
My name's Alex DeFranzo. I live at 141 John Street in Lowell. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that there's police outreach to go out on cold nights and try to bring people back to the shelter. There are just a few specific things that we'd like to request that be added to the protocol, specifically the amount of time that people have to evacuate. We've drafted kind of a guideline of what we'd like. It will be available at our website online, tentcitycoalition.org/protocol by this time tomorrow, earlier. I have a physical copy here as well. Just a few things. Homelessness, as I'm sure you're aware, is a multifaceted and extremely complicated issue. We intend to stick around and see that all of its solvable pieces are fixed, but until then, a humane protocol, which I'm glad to hear is underway, can prevent the unethical and immoral dispersing of human beings in our city. Many of them already out in the cold and down on their luck. It's a simple, cost-free solution. And we were intended to ask for a moratorium on any evacuation, but now that there is a protocol in place, it sounds like things are going the right way, so I'm very happy to hear that. And we have a few more people to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Manigo? Sandra?
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Can you tell us where you live, Sandra?
It's Angela Thomas, I'm sorry. I'm speaking for Sandra. She's not here. It's 94 Rock Street, Lowell, Mass.
You're speaking for Sandra?
I'm speaking for Angela. Sandra's not here. I am Angela Thomas, 94 Rock Street. Thank you for having me speak. I do volunteer work for homeless outreach. I interact with homeless population 7 days a week. I watch the people slowly lose everything they are. Oh my goodness. They're also losing their dignity. I feel that if they were involved in decision-making, it would allow them to feel like they have not lost everything. By homeless helping to make decisions, we would have a wider variety of ideas so that we can make better decisions. We asked for this at the last month meeting, and we're wondering what the progress on this is, but I would just like to say that as an outreach advocate who connects homeless to services on a daily basis, I personally would like to be involved. I am also, according to the Housing Urban Development Regulation, the homeless do have to be involved in decision-making on the 10-year plan. I am also a widowed mother of 4 who slowly became homeless due to financial problems caused by my husband's death, and I am homeless as we speak. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, just a response to that, we do have in our 10-year plan, we do have a users subcommittee. It does have representation from the homeless that are on the development of the 10-year plan, the implementation of the 10-year plan.
The next speaker, there are 4 speakers. The next speaker? Give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is James Currier.
Okay.
I'm a resident of Lowell, 55 Varnon Street. The problem that I wasn't here last month. The issue that was addressed, but I see that it's been taken care of, and there is a new procedure in at hand and being used. I was presently homeless. I knew what to do. I knew what I had to do. I was capable of doing it to become not homeless. And I went out and did it. None of the staff at the shelter gave me a hand to help me get out and get in an apartment or anything else. There are people at the shelter now who are trying to and who are desperately living a positive life and doing things rightly, and the staff there at the shelter is not enough and to help somebody to find a place to live. And this is the issue I bring before you. You have people, there's people living in a shelter that can't even afford, say, a stick of deodorant, and they're making them pay $2 for a meal. And so now we have another problem. And the problem is that there are now people that are hungry. that can't afford to pay $2, so they're not going to be able to eat. This is an issue to people that don't even know how to get out of this situation, but there is not enough staff there to help the homeless, to get them out of that situation, to become a productive member of society. And that's an issue that has to be addressed. So, because I heard you speak, that's saying you had like a 10-year plan to do away with homelessness. That's a good thing, and that should be done. But action needs to be taken now, not in 10 years or 5 years down the road. The shelter needs staff down there to help them and to help the clients find housing. If a man has a criminal record and he is, say, just assaults, he cannot live in housing, low-income housing. And on SSI, you can't afford to pay for that, pay for rent. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one last speaker. Who would that person be? Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is James Tarr. I live at 1 Alexander Circle in Methuen, Massachusetts, but
In
for a period
Methuen?
of a year, I lived at University of Massachusetts here in Lowell.
Okay.
Members of the Lowell City Council, I would first like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As you may or may not have noticed, the homeless segment of the population of the city of Lowell is represented to some extent here as you convene, and the 10 City Coalition would like to ask you tonight to help make that segment a smaller portion of the city's population. Homelessness is a problem that really does not get the attention that it should, and that is something we seek to change. And as the economy has slipped into a recession, the city's homeless population is bound to increase. It saddens me personally to say that these numbers are going up, or as these numbers are going up, services to combat the scourge of poverty and homelessness are going down. This winter, much to the detriment of the city's neediest occupants, funding for the winter protocol of the Lowell Homeless Shelter has come to a halt. For most of the city, this was a non-event. Then, when the homeless had nowhere to turn to other than each other, the Lowell police raided a tent city set up along the Merrimack River, but I'm happy to say that they have developed a protocol for the more ethical treatment of the homeless. You probably don't think much of homelessness in your daily life because they really don't have the capacity to hire lobbyists to represent their interests in state and local politics, such as this one. But since joining the 10 City Coalition, and I'm sure that the members of our organization have found that those in desperate need of housing or shelter of some kind are no less deserving of common human decency or compassion. Their means are admittedly very meager, but we have all begun to recognize something that enriches them beyond the material and the tangible, and that is the wealth in their very souls. And as in that vein, we make one simple plea to the Lowell City Council tonight. Please, members of the council, please bear witness to the wealth of the human soul and make one simple pledge to work with our organization to bring an end to homelessness in Lowell sooner than 10 years, because that is 10 years that the homeless do not have. Please make something even remotely resembling an effort to bring the problem of homelessness to the front burner, and let it never slip out of your mind until we are closer to solving the problem than we are now. Allow us to work with the police department to develop a protocol for the ethical and humane treatment of the homeless. Help us in reinstating the funding for the city's homeless shelter so that these people can have some small space to keep warm in these bitterly cold winter months. Grant these people some sanctuary from the economic downturn that has forced them out of their homes, jobs, and often both. We're not looking for a magic wand. We just want to ask for your help. So, in closing, I would just simply like to thank you for the time that you've granted us and the efforts that you have made as a city council. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank everyone for attending the meeting this evening, and the city council will certainly take your comments seriously. I know Manager Lynch and his administration do as well. The city council and the Lynch administration are working tirelessly to address this issue, and we are compassionate about it. There are many shelters in the city of Lowell, the House of Hope, the shelter on Middlesex Street, numerous group homes and so forth. I think we're doing more than our share. than other communities in the state of Massachusetts. Thank you very much. Council Rita Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank all the people that took time out of their busy life to talk about a concern and care for those that are less fortunate. I know housing being one of them is a very serious issue as well. But tonight on the agenda, there'll be the Department of Planning and Development is going to apply for a $2.3 million grant from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Consortium of Care Homeless Assistance Program. The grant, if funded, would be for leased housing for homeless individuals scattered across the city, as well as other services to homeless individuals, families, and unaccompanied youth. And then there's another item on the agenda for to apply for $10,000 from One Family, Inc., the Paul and Fireman Foundation, to assist in implementing housing for the 10-year plan to end homelessness. And there are two things happening on February 6th and February 7th to aid the Transitional Living Center. There's a spaghetti dinner at St. Anne's Church from 5 to 7 on Friday evening. And then on Saturday morning at St. Anne's as well, there's a pancake breakfast from 8 to 10. These are different ways that we could add to the fund to allow that care for the winter protocol for the people. We have compassion, and I encouraged everyone to come down, and they did. You heard some information tonight from Chief LaValle that said that we're going to be more sensitive to the needs of people. I know that we can't actually break the law, but we do sympathize with people that are out there homeless. We want to get you off the street. We do want to try to provide housing for people that are less fortunate. No one should be out in the cold, not in days like this anyway. This is sad. But we're doing everything as a city that we can with the managers' plan to end homelessness. I don't think we'll ever end it, but we're making a dent in it. We're trying very hard. I don't know how that gentleman found an apartment so quickly, but if you could share your strategy with the rest of those people in here, that might help them tremendously. It disturbs me when I hear things about people that don't have the money have to pay the $2 at the shelter to eat. Gee, I know Janet Kirkorian, I can't quite remember her last name, but she would never let anybody go there without getting fed. Bazorian, Janet Bazorian. That's kind of sad. I know the Salvation Army offers a meal at noontime, and they don't charge if you don't have the money. There are many groups out there that offer food. There's the Elliott Church on probably Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's different areas and places that you could go. And so if you know that, that's where you should take advantage of those things. It's very sad with people losing their jobs today. I thank you for making us aware of this problem, but I think as you tell us these things, we try to make things right. I know there's a Hunger Homeless Commission. They meet once a month on a particular Wednesday. I'm not sure as which, but you're welcome to attend that meeting as well. Offer some suggestions. I don't know what to tell you when we're cutting like $3 million off of our budget. It's very, very difficult. But we need people like you to remind us and stick together, because if nobody cares, then nobody does anything. And you're holding our feet to the fire to do that. Thank you very much for coming here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to move into...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, could I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could I speak on this issue? And I will be brief, but again, thank you to the folks that came and spoke this evening. But I just wanted to address something on the 10-year plan, because that's an initiative that got underway, as you mentioned, when I was mayor. And like many things that come from the federal government, this came as something that the federal government would like us to do, require us to do, and not have any funding that came with it. And I think it's a credit to this administration and the manager's work that that's something that could have been ignored and wasn't. And in fact, the city embraced that mandate from the federal government to come up with this 10-year plan. And when we say a 10-year plan, that doesn't mean we're going to do nothing for 9 years and 364 days, and then magically on the last day, the problem's going to be solved. I think the reason it's a 10-year plan is recognition of the complexity. I mean, if you take even just one homeless person and all the issues that that person has to deal with, they're not going to be solved in a day or a week or a month. And so when you multiply that times a population the size we have, it's going to take some time. But even before this issue erupted last month, work was well underway, and I see that these things tonight that are before the City Council for applying for funds and identifying funds, the work that's gone on to date in identifying funds to expand the winter protocol wouldn't have happened if groundwork had not been laid with the commission that the manager put together. So to all those folks who are volunteers on that commission, I think the city owes a debt of gratitude. And I think it's unfair to say that the city has been ignoring this problem, and it just recently became addressed with the results of the events in the Concord River last month. I didn't think it was true then. I don't think it's true now. By the same token, doesn't mean we've got the problem solved either. But I know members of this council are engaged in this issue. I know members of the police department are. Some of the fundraising events that Councilor Mercier spoke about, police officers have been out soliciting funds and raising money, and that a police officer is the one who approached me about contributing to one of these events coming up. So it is going to take a community-wide effort, but there's been a lot of good work that's gone on to date by many people, many volunteers and people of goodwill in the city, and we should acknowledge their efforts.
Right. You're 100% right, Councilor Martin. Any other discussion on this issue? We're going to now move into the public hearing. Public hearing. The first docket on the agenda is an ordinance amending the new code of ordinances for the city of Lowell, Massachusetts, the code with request to Chapter 266, thereof entitled Vehicles and Traffic. Those wishing to speak in favor, come to the podium and offer your name and address, please. Those wishing to speak in favor. Those wishing to speak in favor. In favor. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition. Opposition. That public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Armin Mercier, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier? Yes. Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
The second issue on the docket for the public hearing, an ordinance amending the new code of ordinances for the city of Lowell, Massachusetts, the code by amending Chapter 56, Personnel, Article 5, Residency Requirements, subsection 56-30. Those people wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
My name is Joanne Keegan. I reside at 67 Rayner Street in the city. I'm here to speak in favor of this. Currently, Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 26 requires that at least one member of the Board of Health be a resident of the city, be a physician. Our current physician is retiring as of May, and there are only a handful of physicians that still reside in the city. And back in 1999, when the position was filled, the physician position, it was difficult to find a physician to serve on the board. And so we're asking the city to consider easing the residency requirement to allow a physician who practices in the city but may not necessarily live in the city be allowed to serve on the board. The other option would be to petition the legislature in a special act to ease the physician requirement. But the board feels that the city is better served having a physician on the board. And so it may be that the vacancy could be filled by a physician that is a resident, but should that not be possible, we're asking that this be considered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor?
Good evening. My name is Paulette Renault Karagianis. I live at 84 Beach Street in Lowell, and I, like Ms. Keegan, I'm a member of the Board of Health. I support the position as put forward by Ms. Keegan. Certainly, we would prefer to have a physician who does live in Lowell, but someone who makes his or her living here and knows the health indicators and emerging health issues in the city certainly would serve the board well. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come to the podium and speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Rita Mercier, seconded by Council Elliott. Any discussion, debate? Council Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have we tried to reach out to the local doctors that live in the city before we, has that been done yet?
I think it's been done in the past, Counselor, and I believe that's what changed the requirement in the past from 2 down to 1. There was quite a bit of difficulty in doing that. There hasn't actually taken place this year as of yet.
So we haven't done it yet. So we don't even know if we have that problem yet.
That's right. Our preference would be, certainly my preference in being the appointing authority would be to have be a resident of the city of Lowell. I think the Board of Health is concerned the member of the Board of Health that is a physician is leaving, and this was a proactive effort to, in the event that there wasn't someone in fact, that we could have someone that simply does business in the city rather than someone that resides in the city but does business elsewhere.
Should we try this first, and if it doesn't work, then come to us? I mean,
I will defer to the wishes of the council. I know that
I don't know. There might be an individual out there, because if we pass this ordinance, it stays there, correct?
Listening to Ms. Keegan's testimony and Mr. Renault's testimony, I think this would strengthen the board and make it more compatible to the needs of the health department. And I think this is a good move. I really do. Okay. So I might, Councilor Ahmed Bashir?
I wonder if we could amend this that if there is someone from Lowell, they would get preference.
That's fine.
That the only time you would go out of the city of Lowell if there isn't anyone from Lowell.
And that would be left up to the jurisdiction of the appointing?
The appointing authority would give preference to a Lowell resident who's interested.
They would go outside.
If not, then
That's fair.
I would like to offer that as an amendment.
Amendment by Councilor Ahmed Mercier, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The amendment passes. Now will we take a roll call vote on the ordinance as amended? Roll call?
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Ahmed Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, is it possible that we could be kept abreast as to what's going on with the nurses coming under the health department or the school department for the grant purposes of funding? Can we be kept abreast of the circumstances that's taken place? Because
That's an issue that's the manager and the school department, the health department are working on, and
Yes,
I'm very
and
confident.
and I'd like to
everything
be made aware of what's
taken
going
care of.
on, if we could. Thank you.
Manager Lynch?
I'd just like to weigh in on that as well. I've been getting some phone calls from interested parties, so I think Councilor Rita Mercier is correct that we do need to be kept into the loop. And I do have confidence in the manager and the school department to continue to work on it, but at the same time, I just don't want people to lose sight of the fact that a nurse is a nurse is not necessarily the case, that there are specialties, and that has to really be thought about as we go forward with these discussions.
And I know the manager and I could really elaborate on this issue, and it's being addressed, believe me. Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And to the two councilors, I will certainly, we are doing work on this right now. Mr. Sheehan is working closely with the health department and the school department to, get the necessary paperwork into the state, because there is a grant in play here that, and I know that in talking with the school superintendent and as well as members of the Board of Health, there is a concern here that we make sure that we adhere to all of that. And I will certainly, as that unfolds, I'll provide the council with updates.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We take them. We already did. Okay. All right. Moving on with the agenda, Council, I'll get to you just briefly. Manager Lynch has asked for me to bring up the communication issue. We just want to go back to communications, and this is regarding authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to enter into a lease agreement with Fortune Wakefield LLC, Farley White Management Company LLC, with a principal place of business at 155 Federal Street, Suite 1800, Boston, Mass. 02110, for property located at 660 Suffolk Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. This was delayed, if you remember, at the last council meeting. And Mr. Manager, would you like to enlighten the council on this particular issue?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and thank you for bringing that back. We did want that brought up, and I inadvertently I hadn't asked that that be taken up tonight. The council, as you know, this was a lease that we had put forward last week or 2 weeks ago for some space over on Suffolk Street that's utilized for our crime lab. This, the question that was put to me at the time was, were there other spaces in the city that we could look to? We went back and spoke to the various departments, and we talked about a number of different spaces that might be possible. Well, certainly one of them that Councilor Kazanjian brought up was the Mammoth Road Fire Station. There's a, obviously there's fire prevention is up there now, in taking up a small amount of that space, and the thought being that maybe some of the area down below could be utilized. That space is currently, as I think I indicated at that time, we're looking right now at the probability of moving fire prevention out of that space and using it more as pretty much mothballing it for the time being, and ultimately selling that property. Right now, all of the space in the bays there has been utilized for storage. We're moving equipment out of other properties that we have in the city, particularly over in the Hamilton Canal site, the Forienberg property, where we've been storing some equipment for both police and fire and some other departments, and that's been moved over to the Mammoth Road Fire Station. We looked at some other, we talked about some other properties that were possibilities, and really we're short on just general space that we could move it. The other issue that we discussed the departments was the cost of retrofitting that space, as well as the cost of providing the utilities. The space that we're utilizing on Suffolk, and we have been for some time, essentially we have just the cost that we bear there is really just the cost of the utilities for that space. If we were to move that space to just a city-owned facility, those utility costs would carry with it, so there really wouldn't be any savings. And in fact, it would likely cost us more to retrofit space if in fact we had any space that we could do that with. In fact, and working with the police superintendent, and I have the police superintendent here to discuss this a little bit tonight, we're actually looking at eliminating some other space that we're currently leasing in the upcoming budget for fiscal year 10, eliminating space that we pay for to move more activities into this space on Suffolk Street to realize a cost savings. So again, I come back to you tonight with the recommendation that we move forward with this. We feel it's a very reasonably priced space. It's a good space for us, given its proximity to the police station. It's also serves a purpose for us for having police coverage in the neighborhood that we like having more of a police presence. Like our other contracts or other leases for police substations, effectively we are not paying any rent, we're simply paying the utility costs. That's the same deal we have in other locations as well. And from the police department's perspective, it serves a very useful purpose for us. Superintendent LaValle, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The space that we're talking about this evening is not the crime lab, as the manager had mentioned it. It's the crime analysis unit. The crime analysis unit within the Lowell Police Department is a very effective and critical unit. It provides us all the information and the statistical information and other information we need to deal with the crime problems in the city. CompStat and many other programs we run is based on the information provided by the people in our crime analysis unit. It is a very reasonable space. It's basically, we pay $3.70 per square foot, which basically covers the cost of the utilities. We understand and appreciate that the multiple police precincts across the city are probably going to be coming to an end very soon, based on the fact that the budget just will not be able to absorb that cost. And we do pay some rent, significant rent at other locations, which will probably have to be closed as we move into next fiscal year. But we do intend to rely on this particular space because it's so cost-effective. It's very, very inexpensive. It's very cheap. And it's large enough to house more people. So we plan to move more people into that particular location. They had, when this originally came to the former city administration, city manager Cox was very much in favor of putting this precinct in place because the people who own that property asked for police presence in the neighborhood. So it really was a win-win for the police department and for the people who lived and worked in that particular neighborhood. And it's been very beneficial for the police department. So we really, truly do need to maintain that, considering the fact that space would allow for other precincts potential that we pay significant rent at to close, and we can move some of the resources over to that location. Quite honestly, we do need to keep some open. We could not close many of the off-site locations in the city of Lowell because simply we cannot absorb the police department structure within the current police building that we have now, because it is far too small and really antiquated. So we need to maintain some of these locations to keep our programs up and running. But with your indulgence and your permission, we'd love to be able to keep this particular location up and running. And I believe that there's a caveat, a condition in each lease, that if we do find ourselves at some point unable to fund the program, we can just, tell them that we would be happy to break the lease and we'll have to move out.
I'm just looking at the lease agreement. It's $3.77 a square foot, and leases for 2 years. Is that right, Mr. Manager?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, how many staff people are in this unit?
The staff that we have there right now is a police sergeant, and we have 5 crime analysts working at that location. So there's a total of 6 at that location.
Are they grant-funded positions, or are they City of Lowell funded positions?
The sergeant is paid through the City of Lowell budget. All the other positions are paid through community policing grants or other grants. Yeah, there is not one city-funded position there with the exception of the police sergeant.
I was going to ask you what the status of those grants are. Are they 3-year grants?
Well,
are they about to expire?
The 9C cuts are going to be problematic for us, obviously. We did receive good news today on the Shannon grant. We found out that the funding will stay intact for the Shannon grant, and the city received close to $1 million in Shannon grant funding this fiscal year and beyond. We also know that some of the community policing grants, which we rely on quite heavily, we have not received word yet on those grants and how they will be impacted by the governor's cuts, but we have many, many employees in the Lowell Police Department, both sworn and non-sworn, who rely on that particular grant. So we're hoping that, we're not impacted too greatly, but it's certainly a possibility.
How much the total? What's the total of that grant that you receive annually?
I don't have the specific number, Councilor, but it's quite significant, and really it carries multiple salaries in the Lowell Police Department.
Could we get that information at some
Sure.
point in time as we move
Absolutely.
forward?
You want the numbers on the community policing grant?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any Councilor Cassandra?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, you said you were closing down some of the precincts and moving other offices into this facility. What other places are you going to be closing down other than the precincts? Are you closing all the precincts?
Well, I mean, again, it's tentative. It depends on how badly the budget is cut and how many the dollar amount that we need to eliminate from the budget. We haven't really, exactly determined which ones they will be. We have to consider cost. We have to consider location. We have to consider the number of offices and others who are assigned to these particular locations. Some of them are strategically located. As you know, the one by the Boys Club is a key location in the city of Lowell, and we have a number of officers who work out of that location because it is a large building. Some of the others we pay rent, have been mainstays and part of our program for a number of years, but the rent is expensive, and there are others that we pay no rent. The Housing Authority provides us with the space. We'll be provided with a space soon on West 6th Street that will allow us to be there at no cost for 2 years. So those are the kind of places we really want to leverage. We want to really concentrate on those locations that are cost efficient, that we pay very little, if any, rent at all, and hopefully we can put our resources in those particular locations. And those locations that we do pay considerable rent to, we'll have to tell them that we'll be leaving. But in the past, these landlords have found these programs so beneficial to the neighborhood and to their properties, they've asked us to stay, and they would not charge us any rent at all. So we may see that happen again, but that remains to be seen.
Have we reached out to the landlords and asked them if they'll give you some type of break or no?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
Not as of yet.
Also, do we have a unit up at Cross Point? Is that?
Yeah, that's a great point. The Cross Point facility, which is our in-service training program and a meeting area and so forth, and really is utilized for multiple reasons. We, as you know, the City of Lowell Police Department has for years been the regional training center. So we service 27 cities and towns at Cross Point. All those cities and towns who come to Cross Point pay tuition to send their officers to Lowell. That tuition then is in turn pays for the rent at Cross Point. What we would like to do is it's a great facility, it's a wonderful location, but what we may have to contemplate doing, and this is part of my contingency plan, is to move our training facility from Cross Point to another location in the city that would be much less expensive, and then utilize the funds that we receive from the tuition that the various police departments pay to pay for salaries for people who are involved in training and other aspects of the police department. So we certainly believe that $100,000 plus rent that we currently pay at Cross Point can be utilized elsewhere with a much less expensive facility. We've actually been in dialogue with Middlesex Community College. Currently, we have our Lowell Police Academy operating at the Lowell campus. Actually, I spoke with Dean Burke today. And then we have had dialogue with the LRTA. As you know, NIMCOG has moved and gone to a new location, so that space is available and potentially at a much less expensive rate than what we're paying now. And that facility is pretty substantial. So we're considering many options, and we certainly hope to find a location that would meet our needs. We certainly don't want to lose those departments that currently we service, because they do pay tuition money that is obviously beneficial to the police department, and money that we could hopefully parlay into salaries for members of this organization rather than have to lay people off.
Okay, thank you.
Manager Lynch?
I was just going to, the superintendent spoke to some of the issues that I was going to speak to. I mean, we're still very much in the process of looking at a number of different options and going through the necessary procurement process to a negotiation process. So at this point, I think the point we're trying to make, the superintendent and myself, is that we're looking to cut down on a number of the costs of the space that we have outside of the police station, maintaining our presence in the neighborhoods, but recognizing that we just don't have the resources that we've had in the past, and looking to do it in a much more cost-effective way. But clearly, it still needs to go through a much more comprehensive process of negotiations and procurement as required by law. So I just...
And Chief, I might add, that's very innovative to continue with the police academy, but yet lowering the cost as well, and we all applaud you for that. So,
well, we have great partners in the city who have been really beneficial for all of us.
Any other discussion on this particular issue? Move approved by Council Arman Mercier, seconded by Council Rita Mercier. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin? Councilor Arman Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Now I'd like to recognize
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick, and I'm sorry that we didn't
That's okay.
do that earlier, but we'd like to take a subcommittee report out of sequence, and it involves the marketing program. So all in favor of taking the sequence out of the subcommittee issue out of sequence by Councilor Mercier, motion by Councilor Mercier, second by Councilor Bill Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The ayes have it, and Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, and thank you for taking that out of order. The marketing subcommittee met last week, and we'd asked Single Source to come in and give the full presentation, should be fairly brief, to the entire council in case there were some questions. I know that there were some questions after this was brought up last week. And I'll be real brief because they're going to give you the presentation, but there was a motion to recommend approval, I guess, of the what we talked about as a brand, a new brand for the city, and a website that would act as a portal and would bring together the different businesses and entities and resources in the city and make it more user-friendly, a way to hopefully generate some revenue to help with the advertising. We are going to keep there's a lot to like about Lowell's slogan. I think that's important. I know that got some legs last week that it was being ditched. It is going to be a marketing piece as a slogan. This is just a brand, and I may not be using the proper marketing terms, but essentially that was the gist of the meeting. Councilor Rita Mercier, Councilor Alan Kazanjian, Councilor Jim Malinazzo, and myself were present. Councilor Rita Mercier made the motion, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian, to recommend approval to the full body, and we asked him to come here tonight to give a brief presentation as to what we saw and to see if there's any questions they may be able to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Broderick. And before I have the panel come forward and show us their display, I just wanted to reiterate that there's a lot to like about Lowell. That is going to remain part of the advertising program brought forward because it's almost an identity with the city for years. So I'm glad to hear that, Councilor. So if the advertising people in LZ Nunn would like to come forward and show us, verbally give us this description of your program.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, City Manager Lynch. We are here tonight. The Single Source is going to be presenting a program, a marketing strategy that they've developed in concert with many of our partners here in the city of Lowell. They have all of the information and will be presenting some sample ads for you. But we wanted to make sure to reiterate that this was something that came about with many influential meetings with city leaders from our various constituent organizations, members from the National Park, the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, UMass Lowell, the Middlesex Community College, several developers and businesses in the community, as well as Lowell residents and cultural organizations. So a group met, convened 3 times in 3 separate meetings to give input and feedback to Single Sources. They developed this presentation. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Rick Alpern from Single Source, who's the president and CEO there. Thank you.
Thank you, LZ, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. Thank you for having me here. I know you have a very tight agenda. What we have for you today is a presentation. We're going to run through from beginning to end. If you have questions, please feel free, but I think there'll be a lot of the questions answered as we go through this. First thing, and it kind of stands out, why market the city of Lowell, especially in these economic times? First, generate revenue. We must continue to attract new businesses, developers and investors, new residents, visitors, and tourists to come to the city. I'll just catch up there, forgive me. The city must be strategic and proactive in aggressively targeting these revenue sources. And Lowell's a very different place than it was 20 years ago. We need to highlight the dramatic transformation and revitalization of the city. This means changing the current perception in the minds of those who live outside of the city, giving them compelling reasons to live, work, and play here. And then our goal is to emphasize the amenities, attractions, investment opportunities that Lowell has to offer. So rather than bogging everybody down with process, Mr. Manager and LZ, Adam, myself, we all talked and said, why don't we go right to the creative? Why don't we show you what it's going to look like? And we're going to start actually with the radio. And so what I'm about to play for you is a radio spot that would just be the initial imaging of the city of Lowell. Excuse me while I just trigger it so they can hear us on TV.
Lowell, a city as rich with historic mills along the Merrimack River as it is progressive.
I'll ask the technical people to come out so that we can reach you, but
We take a lot of words for granted. The word live, for example. How much thought do we really give to live? How we live, where we choose to live, how our children will live. Am I inspired where I live? Living in Lowell is like having the world at your fingertips. Arts and entertainment, professional sports, dining for every palate and budget, small businesses bustling everywhere, and an undeniable energy that you'll feel the very first time you visit. And you should visit soon. Lowell, a city as rich with historic mills along the Merrimack River as it is progressive, where new developments cut against the grain, like the independent drive of an entrepreneur. There's a lot to like about Lowell, and there's a very good chance you'll like it so much, Lowell is where you'll choose to live. Visit Lowell.org for a complimentary welcome package and to find out why Boston Magazine calls Lowell one of the best places to live. The city of Lowell. Alive, unique, inspiring.
What'd you think?
Very good.
It's real good. It works in.
There's a lot to like about Lowell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It is in there and it's prominent. And it does a very good job of tying together a lot of the benefits that the city has and all the various targets that the city has. It's a real challenge. And just as an aside, the group that we brought together really embraced that there are multiple targets to hit. And we can't alienate any of them. So let me continue with the creative. What I'm about to show you next is a series of creative constructs, really just basic concepts of how the ads would look and who they would be targeted to. So this first creative concept series is called Collage. And so what I want to point out to you is right there you can see there's a target. So this is a print ad, and the target is developers, because we said we want to try to bring them here. So you look at the collage of all the different photos, and it says, "Grow with us," and that grabs you right away. The subtext says, "The City of Lowell has everything you need to build your business. A unique understanding of business development, a wonderful living environment, an incredibly talented workforce." There's a lot to like about Lowell. And then you see the call to action right there on the bottom left. And in this case, we actually used Adam Bakey's department, and we put Teresa there, Teresa Park, as the person who you would call. And then you see the positioning statement, Lowell, alive, unique, inspiring. And we'll talk about how that plays into everything and some of the other creative. Another ad, again, this time targeting businessmen, "Welcome to the City of Lowell." If you would like it to be, it is the mayor. "We know how to treat business and would like you to consider moving here. Lowell has it all. A business-friendly environment, a wide range of housing with prices that won't shock your employees, a city that is alive and growing." There's a lot to like about Lowell. And again, the call to action for this business person to reach out to the Department of Planning, and then of course Lowell, alive, unique, inspiring. The next sample ad, we show a different target. So we want to bring people to the city to live, residents. So if you look right here, these are empty nesters. "Live well in Lowell," says the headline. "The City of Lowell has it all. Beautiful homes and historic lofts, great shops, amazing restaurants, pro sports, exciting events, and the list goes on." There's a lot to like about Lowell. And again, no call to action this time because it's not business to business. But again, what you can see here is a call to the website that we'll show you examples of shortly. Lowell, alive, unique, inspiring. The next one, another target that came up in these discussions, this marketing model process we took the group through, was another residence one, was young professionals. And this header says, "Looking for a city that is uniquely you? Look no further. From gorgeous lofts to cutting-edge jobs to pro sporting events and a great nightlife, Lowell gives you that big city feel without big city costs. Check it out because there's a lot to like about Lowell." And again, the same call to action to the website that Kevin Broderick had mentioned, how we're going to kind of funnel people to the City of Lowell. The next one, another target group we had, is visitors. We want people to come to the city to experience the tremendous events. The headline here, "This doesn't even scratch the surface of how alive Lowell has become." And it's a great shot of Winterfest and then other various events that the City of Lowell puts on. And then the subtext, "Come see for yourself and discover why there's a lot to like about Lowell." So that was just one concept. Couple things to emphasize. This is not final artwork, and I spoke to Jen from the Sun about that, and just said, look, this is where we are to this point in a very short period of time. We've still got to wordsmith certain things, but it gives you a real sense and feel of where we could go. I love this next one. We call it Impressions. Again, looking at the target here is developers. And the text reads, it's a little small for the screen, but remember, this is a print ad, and there's actually very little copy when you consider that. There's a lot to like about Lowell. Despite these uncertain times, the city of Lowell continues to move forward with the development of its amazing city. If you're a developer, check out all that Lowell has to offer. And then the call to action again. And this is a different look for the ads, and what I'm going to do is show you there's a whole series of them. So in the next one, we look at targeting businesses to move to the city of Lowell. And the text reads, there's a lot to like about Lowell. Business owners looking for new outlets are inspired by this unique and active city. Entrepreneurs, large and small, are coming to Lowell. And then the call to action to Teresa. Another target, as we mentioned, was residents. So there's a beautiful shot with these great saturated graphics targeted to residents. Looking for a city that's uniquely you? Look no further. Lowell has everything that your life needs. And then again, some of the text that we've had before, but this time it says check it out because there's a lot to like about Lowell. This really is a little bit of a different treatment. You start to see the alive, unique, inspiring come a little bit more prominent, but we haven't tanked the slogan, nor are we. There's a lot to like about Lowell. It's a very good transition into this positioning statement. Another visitor's example in this same kind of creative construct would be take a canal ride down the Merrimack, visit a museum, shop at a gallery, choose from a bevy of outstanding restaurants, and that's just for starters. There's a lot to like about Lowell. And then we had a third series. We have a lot of art directors at Single Source, so these you can tell they were stylistically done by different art directors. This one's terrific as well. We've called it Faces. It's a close-up of a businessman or a developer, and it's real easy to read. It's real clean. There's a real immediate I get it to this. Great potential, unique spaces, strong business community. There's a lot to like about Lowell. Pardon me, Mike? It could be. The next one, again the target, new business. So this is a business person. Unique office space, great talent pool, everything my employees need. There's a lot to like about Lowell. And these would be residents, and another look at how we would reach empty nesters. And again, we show these people that this is stock photography, but these are the vibrant people that are considered empty nesters. And we had an empty nester as part of this brand development process, and she gave great insight to it. So the text reads, own a new home, eat at great restaurants, enjoy inspiring art galleries. There's a lot to like about Lowell. And again, targeting people to the website. This going more towards the young professionals, but it resonates. You can see they're having a great time in their new place. You can see the wood floors. Own a new spacious loft, walk to work, catch an outdoor concert. You get the real sense of what Lowell's about there. Next one, just trying to keep an eye on time. Buy a loft, enjoy the nightlife, kayak at dawn. There's a lot to like about Lowell. This one I love. I think I obviously like a lot of these, but I like the way this resonates for visitors just because of the things we mentioned about the city of Lowell. Watch a parade at the folk festival, see a blue heron on the canal tour, ride the trolley. There's a lot to like about Lowell. Though it's not in the same category as Faces, we had more creative, and we like the shot of this showing a festival, and the text reads, the streets come alive, unique food, all at the folk festival. There's a lot to like about Lowell. One of the other things we were tasked with, so those were the kind of three different styles. I'll just do a quick temperature check. What did you guys think? Getting some nods? Enjoyed? Great. We're also going to be tasked with collateral. Adam Bakey's group's going out to try to bring people into the city. So for planning and development, this could be the cover of a collateral piece. And again, just the succinct messaging in this for this target group, built for business. So this is just a cover to what would be their collaterals. Another look at that was a take on the hand. And one of our artists did this. I love the starburst that emanates from the O of Lowell. And the hand actually has this visual like it's coming forward, even more so than the other one. If we go with the other series, I think we do that same treatment. But it's exactly what we want to impress upon people, is that the city of Lowell is welcoming business to the city. The website and online. I'm going to give you just a little bit. The website, there's a lot of complexities to the website that we just don't have the time to get into that we talked about with the subcommittee, but really what we want to do is use this particular website as a way, as a portal, as Kevin had mentioned, to bring people to the city so that when people search Lowell, they can find what they need. And we kept it very simple to work. If you can look up here, it just says very simply the buttons, the 4 buttons going across. It says live here, right there, guys. Live here, work here, play here, learn here. Now, under each of those buttons, whether they just drop down automatically or you click on them, there'll be everything you'll want to know about, every kind of link possible, rather, about living here. So it could be information about renting, it could be information about apartments, it could be information about condos, homes, etc. Under work here, again, the same thing. Under play here, you know, a lot of discussion in these marketing model meetings that we had with the group were how much there was to do from a cultural standpoint. And what culture is to one person isn't the same to another. Somebody might think going to sporting events or to the movies, et cetera, is culture. Others, it's art galleries. Our intention is to underplay here is to have all those possible things there as links. And a critical thing that I'll mention is that anybody that we list under that play here, we're also going to want them to link to the City of Lowell on their website. And that will do a lot to help us when people search for Lowell and things to do. That will help bring us up in the Google rankings, which is really critical. And then under Learn here, all the different kinds of learning institutions will drop down. A couple of highlights. One of the things that's important to look at here is this in particular, this large graphic. If you see there are smaller graphics, this graphic will actually rotate. And our intention is to start off with actual testimonials, even though this is stock photography. And what we do is we have different people in those images who represent different members of the target groups that we're going after. So this, a young professional. It's simply an amazing place to live, he says. There's a lot to like about Lowell. And then that'll rotate and they'll show another target. And the reason why I bring that up is people put up websites all the time and they don't refresh them. They just stand there and they're somewhat static. We want to reach out to the Lowell community and try to generate a lot of user-generated content. So we might do a contest that says, show us your Lowell, and have people send us pictures of how they see the city of Lowell, or an essay contest, et cetera, et cetera. We'll give more thought to that as we get towards the media plan. But this will give you a sense of how we do it. The other big thing to take away on this is on the right-hand side, right there, is these are actually, we put these in, nobody's given any money towards this effort at this point, but we could see, including businesses and going to businesses and asking them for support, and in exchange for that, being involved in the radio commercial, being on the website, being in the email marketing that we'll do, being possibly in print ads, and trying to leverage some of the city money and say, how can we make it greater? And there's been a lot of discussion about having a separate meeting going out to the business community and presenting packages and opportunities to do that. I wouldn't tell you I think that we could raise an enormous amount of money, but I'd like to give it the college try and see what we could bring in from that. It's gotten a lot of good feedback from the business community that was a part of the marketing model. A couple other things to note, it's a clean look, right? It's got the logo, Lowell, Alive, Unique, Inspiring. There's one headline story, that's it, and then there's a calendar. We want to make it easy for people to get around. To just show you the example, here's another target, a senior, an empty nester of seniors. I love coming to Lowell, it says, to catch a Devils hockey game. Parking is easy, and the Songus Arena is a great venue. There's a lot to like about Lowell. These would be some online advertisements. These would actually have motion to them. They'd be moving. We just have them static for this. I'll show you what they would possibly look like. If you look at a Boston.com, for us possibly reaching out to people there. Another example of how that might animate in a different part of the Boston.com. We look at the LowellSun.com. There's, again, we'll get to the media plan after we get this all settled. Here's an example of how we could do the email newsletter. What's critical about this is we want to keep it short and sweet, and we don't want to send it to people every 3 days. We'll probably do something once a month, have a couple of headlines, and if they want more, they can go find it via links. And the only other thing is for consistency, again, you see the branding, but you also see those 4 buttons, live here, work here, play here, etc. Lastly, I do want to talk about the process. LZ started to mention, how did we get here? And I just need to go to my notes so I can see from there. It's really simple. Over the past several months, we did bring together a group of really people who represented the community in all sorts of ways. So LZ mentioned them. I want to make sure we show everybody. So we did the Lowell plan. We brought together Deb Belanger from the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, local business leaders, developers, investors, UMass Lowell, Middlesex College, residents, various city departments, and then cultural organizations. In fact, we had an additional meeting with I think there were almost 20 people from various cultural organizations to run through how we doing, basically. Are we on track? So we had a lot of terrific feedback. This kind of in closing, I want to, normally in doing a media pitch, I would almost always start with the target. We decided to put this at the back because we wanted you to see the creative and then look at, because Lowell has so much to offer to so many, one of the biggest challenges was to make sure the marketing connects, and that's a key word. We want to connect with all those different targets. Here are just some of the target groups that are important to the growth and well-being of the city. We mentioned it, business decision makers. We need to appeal to those people to move their businesses to the city, plain and simple. Developers, we need that group as well. They can directly expand the tax base. Young professionals, these are home buyers, these are patrons of businesses, etc. Empty nesters, home buyers again, tourists, they sample the city, and what I like to say is, if we do a good job with this, they become great brand ambassadors. Somebody comes to Winterfest and goes back to where they came from, a city in the surrounding area. We might not be able to get better advertising than the word of mouth. And then visitors, pull from surrounding cities to attend the events. One of the key challenges was to create a look and feel that would resonate with these target groups and not alienate any of them. And I think we've done that. The question is there's so much good creative, what do we actually wind up going with? I think what we see before us is probably several campaigns that could roll out, promoting the slogan, there's a lot to like about Lowell, and then giving us a chance to really expound upon the alive, unique, and inspiring. And with that, that's our presentation.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think now that they've given the presentation, to clarify, the recommendation was to adopt the brand. The next phase or the next step, as we discussed at the meeting, is going to be to come back, the manager and the marketing people come back with a media plan, which would include some type of budget and funding sources and how we're going to pay for all this. Obviously, we've got some financial, fiscal difficulties right now, but I think that, so everybody knows, right now is the recommendation is to adopt this brand of alive, unique, and inspiring, keeping the slogan, there's a lot to like about Lowell, and then move forward onto some type of media plan, which would include budget and how we're paying for it.
Councilor Lindsay, to Councilor Kazanjian, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is terrific. Outstanding work, and really resonates for our city. What kind of measuring tool, or how do we know 12 months from now, how do we measure our return on investment as to all of these things that we're putting out there?
May I, Mr. Mayor? Councilman, I think it's a great question. It's the eternal advertising question that we get asked all the time. I think there are some ways. I think some of it's going to be anecdotal. I think you're going to have people like Teresa or Adam who are out in the business world bringing people in and seeing if that's actually if they're hearing that is, you know what, we saw this and we hadn't considered you guys. This is one of the reasons why we're here. So that's anecdotal. The web's going to allow us to do a lot, and it's also kind of a low-cost way to do a lot, too. So there are ways of measuring the analytics. How many times people come to the site, who comes to the site, what did they use the site for? So there are certain ways to do that. There are other ways. We could do certain research using inexpensive research tools like SurveyMonkey, where we could, the people that do sign up for, as you notice, we had an email, and there's also opportunities for people who go to the website to sign up for headline news. The moment we put a new headline, it gets sent to them. We could look at that as a group of people and survey them very inexpensively, almost for no cost, and see how they're using the site, what they're looking at. There are ways to measure, but at the end of the day, as with Lowell 5 or any of the other customers that we have as an agency, we do the very same thing. We'll ask the very same question on all the media: is how are we measuring this? We might not always get the best answer. There might not always be a way to do it. But I think our job as the agency is to push that question on each piece of media.
So we could come up with, say, a year, 12 months from now, some sort of a report of how many times the website was hit and on some of those surveys, a general collection of data that people went into websites and things like that?
Actually, Mike, it's even broader than that. We've talked with LZ about this in part of the pitch process, the RFQ process that we went out on. One of the things that we're, I think as an agency, very good at is doing recaps of everything, all the amount of work that we've done, because you're spending money on us as well to execute this, and you're spending money on media. I think you deserve a report that shows here's everything that you guys got. And so our intention is actually to do, we've gotten a little waylaid on the first quarter because we've been, I think, engaged with you guys for about almost 4 months now, is to do some sort of quarterly report and then have a yearly report where we can say, this is everything your money got, not just the media, but what single source delivered, what we were contracted to do, and where we went over and above that. In fact, we're doing that for a client in the city on Friday. We have a tradition where we do a yearly presentation of here's everything we did and here's what we're looking for next year. Good question.
Okay. Council Kazanjian, then Council Milonato.
Thank you, Mayor. I was at the subcommittee meeting, and we brought the question up about the cost of this. Have you got any further with the costs? Because as you know, there's going to be a big part of. I'm sure my colleagues have the same feelings. You know, a couple hours ago, we were talking about possible layoffs and other things that we have to conserve. So, do we have a cost factor yet?
Well, we don't have a cost factor yet. We're still.
Do we have an approximate?
No, not at this time. The whole purpose of today was to really just bring the whole council up to speed after, over the last week, we fine-tuned it based upon the input or the single source fine-tuned it. And now the next step is looking at the media plan. As I think was pointed out, our goal here is to look at outside funding sources to work with us to make this happen, whether that be businesses in the community, some of the organizations in the community. There likely would be some type of city contribution as well, but I think I can assure you that I certainly recognize the financial limitations that we have, that we probably don't have the ability to, likely don't have the ability to put the type of money in that we have in the past into marketing. And that's why when we were developing this, we were really conscious about developing this with other people involved in the room, not just us doing it on our own. We want buy-in from the business community, buy-in from the cultural organizations, buy-in from the Visitors Bureau as well. So what we want to do is we have to fine-tune that number, and then that will drive us in terms of next year's budget requests to the City Council, and looking to use these next few months to develop a funding strategy that, again, reaches out. I think that it's incumbent upon us to do that. Having said that, I think that there is some value to continuing to market the city in terms of future growth. I think certainly as business people have to look at the way they do business, they recognize that they can't go totally underground and not promote themselves, whether they be a restaurant or a contractor or a shop. They still have to do that to get people in the door. But our core mission, obviously, is delivery of services in the city. And so we have to balance that out, and that will be reflected in the budget presentation that we make to the City Council.
Exactly. I mean, for me, if we're having layoffs and we're not providing the services like we normally do, and these people are calling us up and say, well, yeah, we're sorry about the layoffs, but we have a great advertising for the city. So we have to, I know we're caught between a rock and a hard place. We have to do a little bit of advertising, but we have to keep our employees in place and provide the services also. Are we paying for this now? Is this costing the city any money?
This was a contract that was entered into last summer. And it's, you're right.
And what is this costing us to this point? Do we have any idea?
I believe the contract was roughly and this includes the media buy, $150,000, which is about 100. We cut this back. It was the City Council budgeted
400,000.
Used to be 400,000. I think we cut it back to 275, and that's what it was last year. But this year we were only, even though we were authorized to spend 275, we're capping it off at 150 or 155 right now.
So what we're spending, well, in other words, we're budgeted for $150,000 for...
We're budgeted for 275.
275.
Right, but we're pulling back on that.
Okay. It does-
And there's no guarantee that we'll even spend that full amount.
Does this come in front of us to vote either yea or nay on this?
I imagine be in the budget,
That's correct.
Mr. Manager?
It'll be in the budget for next year.
So you can,
Okay,
you know,
okay,
you can.
all right,
Yeah.
okay. thank
And again, I think, Counselor, I think you make some great points. That, again, I think that our goal here is to deliver services. I said that earlier in the subcommittee meeting when we talked about the budget, that's our goal, that's our responsibility to deliver the services to the citizens of the city, above all else. It's also our objective, certainly from an economic development standpoint, to grow the community, just like a business tries to grow
Oh,
its
I
business
understand
base.
that, you know,
But
and-
it's a balance. It does us little good, if I just could wrap this one thought up. It does us little good if we are advertising how wonderful the city is, yet we're not following through on our essential services.
Right.
And people see flashy pictures, and then they come into the city and they find they don't have any services here, so,
Right.
you know, they were deceived. It's that balance, and that's really what we're trying to strike.
Okay, thank you.
It did come up quite a bit, the retention versus delivering on the promise. You know, the advertising and the marketing that we do is trying to get people to come in. The city, it has to deliver. It has to deliver and do the retention part of it. And
Thank you.
it is, you know, just as an aside, we are thrilled to be a part of the city. I don't say that lightly. We've been doing business here for about 5.5 years. And the way the city came together with the organizations that it did to get to just this point, you know, I get to do the flashy presentation, but there was just an enormous amount of work of the businesses being lockstep in with the city government. It's absolutely incredible.
Councilor Milanasso?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was impressed with the presentation this evening, especially how the new brand was tied with the original tagline, "There's a lot to like about Lowell." I do, though, want to just ask if it was ever considered, and I'd be prepared to vote for the brand tonight, but if it was ever considered to flip the words inspiring and alive. Instead of having it alive and unique, inspiring, have it inspiring, unique, alive. Because usually in a tagline, again, I'm not the expert, but a tagline usually ends with a shorter word than the longer word. So I would think that it just flows better. I know Councilor Broderick is smiling, but it just seems to me that it flows better with inspiring, unique, alive. So again, I just offer that. If you'd all like to vote it the way it's before us, that's certainly fine, but that's just a suggestion. Again, it doesn't even have to be considered tonight, but just a suggestion.
I like that.
To me, it seems to flow better, but that's just my opinion. Other than that, I thought it was terrific.
What? You like the way we
It's
could
likely-
we could debate this for hours.
Mr. Mayor, it is, if I could, it is likely to stay the way it is, and I appreciate the feedback. To get to this point, we went through a process that I'm not going to drag us down in the process, but it is a very meticulous process. And we get to the point of positioning, which is really, at that point, we had probably 100 different positioning statements for the city. And we thought that this one allowed us a very good ability to grow and talk about, as you could see from all the creative, all the things, how the city is alive, the city, there are inspiring stories, et cetera, et cetera. We just happen to like the meter of the way that went, and I think you get into sometimes these subjective discussions, and at some point you have to make the decision of here's how it's going to go and move forward. I think the winner in all this is the city, though, regardless of the order of those words, and there was a lot more discussion than just saying it's the meter, but the city is the winner because this gives us a platform to talk about a lot.
Any other discussion or debate on this particular issue? If not, I will entertain a motion by Councilor Broderick to bring this forward, to adopt the recommendation brought forward by the Marketing Subcommittee, to recommend and adopt the recommendation brought forward, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. Any other discussion? Roll call. That's to adopt the brand.
The brand, correct.
Just the brand.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
And I just want to comment one more time. An excellent presentation. was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not saying this lightly either. I could not do it without Carly Monell, who's on our staff, who's the account manager on this business, and she is absolutely terrific. With the help of LZ Nunn, who's been our guidance, Adam Bakey, Andy Sheehan, of course, the city manager, and Teresa Park, and then all those other people who did help bring this together. It was a great group effort.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move through the agenda, and I'm going to expedite the agenda, but I'm not going to rush through it, but I'm going to try to expedite it.
That's all right.
So I'll need some assistance. Okay, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expand a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services in the amount of $6,000 to provide funding for the maintenance of the Mass decontamination units for the Lowell Fire Department. Whereas the City of Lowell is desirous of accepting a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services, and whereas the grant will make available to the city the sum of $6,000 to provide funding for maintenance for the Massachusetts decontamination units for the Lowell Fire Department. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the city manager is hereby authorized to apply for, accept, and expend funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services, the amount of $6,000 to provide maintenance for the mass decontamination units for the Lowell Fire Department. And second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expand a grant for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services in the amount of $6,000 to provide funding for the maintenance of the Massachusetts decontamination units for the Lowell Fire Department. Any discussion, debate? If not, roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9
Approving the exemption of Joseph Cooper from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws 268A, Section 20, whereas Joseph Cooper was employed by the City of Lowell as a firefighter, and whereas Joseph Cooper applied for snow and ice removal contract with the Department of Public Works, which snow plowing contract is exempt from Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, as, 17, and therefore does not need to be publicly advertised and competitively bid. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Second reading by title, approving the exemption of Joseph Cooper from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. And there's one other request, approving the exemption of Kerry Bommel from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20, whereas Kerry Bommel is employed by the Parks Department of the City of Lowell as a referee, and whereas Kerry Bommel desires to accept a position with the City of Lowell Department as a substitute teacher. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading is waived. Second reading by title, approving the exemption of Kerry Bommel from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. Any discussion, debate? If not, roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from the administrator of the estate of Angie Kadakis in the amount of $663.32 for the use by the Cemetery Department of the City of Lowell, whereas in accordance of the last will and testament of Angie Kadakis, the City of Lowell West Lawn Cemetery Flower Fund is named to receive a request of $500 plus interest, with sums now total $663.32 for use by the Cemetery Department of the City of Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Arman Mercia, second by Councilor Milonazo. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from the administrator of the estate of Angie Kadakis in the amount of $663.32 for the use by the Cemetery Department of the City of Lowell. Any discussion, debate? If not, roll call.
Councilor Lenzi? Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Vote authorizing the city manager to execute an easement from the city of Lowell to Massachusetts Electric Company for the installation of an underground electric distribution system. Said system is located in, through, under, over, across, and upon certain parcels of land situated on the northerly side of Father Morrisette Boulevard and said Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Broderick, seconded by Counsel Elliott. All in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to execute an easement from the city of Lowell to Massachusetts Electric Company for the installation of an underground electric distribution system, and said system is located in, through, under, over, across, and upon certain parcels of land situated on the northeasterly side of Father Morrisette Boulevard in said Lowell. Any discussion, debate? Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi,
Yes.
Councilor Martin,
Present.
Councilor Arman Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Lindsay, seconded by Council Gazanjian. All in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading's been waived. Second reading by title, pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Sections 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations, are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Any discussion, debate? None? Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend funds from One Family Incorporated of the Paul and Phyllis Fireman Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000. This amount will be utilized to hire a consultant to work on permanent housing pilot for chronically homeless in the City of Lowell. Whereas One Family Incorporated, project of the Paul and Phyllis Fireman Charitable Foundation, is a nonprofit organization devoted to ending family homelessness in Massachusetts and brings together philanthropic and private leaders, elected officials, and faith in the community organization to design and implement effective, lasting solutions to family homelessness. And whereas the grant will make available to the city the sum of $10,000 to provide funding to hire a consultant to work on a permanent housing pilot for the chronically homeless in the City of Lowell, and now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and he is hereby authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expand a grant from One Family Incorporated of the Paul and Phyllis Fireman Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000. This amount will be utilized to hire a consultant to work on a permanent housing pilot for the chronically homeless in the City of Lowell. Be it further voted that the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell be and he is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said grant, including the expenditure thereof. Any discussion, debate, second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend funds from One Family Incorporated of the Paul and Phyllis Fireman Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000. This amount will be utilized to hire a consultant to work on a permanent housing pilot for the chronically homeless in the City of Lowell. Any discussion, debate? Council Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as Councilor Martin said earlier, this is, tomorrow we're going to be better off than we are today. And, you know, the effort to end homelessness is absolutely foremost in our minds. And I just wanted to reiterate that because of what was said earlier, that, you know, we weren't standing idly by, and this problem is on our minds on a daily basis. So I just think this is a great motion and look forward to voting for it.
Mr. Manager, did you apply for this grant?
Yes, we did. And, the credit really goes to the work of the DPD. Adam Bakey is here with us tonight, and also Linda King, who's really spearheading this effort for us with the And this is the second year, I believe, that the Fireman Foundation has funded this grant for us, and it's a great work on those people, on behalf of those people to get us this money.
And it just goes to show we do care. If we didn't care, this would not be before us. And any other discussion on this particular issue? If not, a roll call.
Council Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Vote authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in a total amount of $3 million from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Growth District Initiative Program. Whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts had made available grant funds for municipalities that have identified one or more areas in their communities as being appropriate locations for significant new growth, and whereas the Hamilton Canal District in the city of Lowell, located within the JAM Urban Renewal Plan area in the city designated growth district, and is eligible for funding through the Growth District Initiative Program. And whereas the city of Lowell desires to apply for, accept, and expend funds from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Growth District Initiative Program. Now therefore, be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development be and is hereby authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in the amount of $3 million from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Growth District Initiative Program. Be it further voted that the city manager, on behalf of the City of Lowell, be and is hereby authorized to execute any of all documents necessary in connection with said grant from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Growth District Initiative Program, second reading by title, authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in a total amount of $3 million from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Growth District Initiative Program. Any discussion on this particular? Council Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say and thank the delegation. It was an exciting day at the university last week, and the chancellor hosted another delegation from the state to come down and deliver the check for $3 million. So it was exciting to be there that day, and everybody's very positive about this project and it moving forward in a reasonable manner. So
yes. Any, Council Broderick?
I was just going to reiterate the thank you to the delegation. I think it's important that they get thanked for that as well, but also that it's good to see some good news. We've been wrestling with some very difficult issues tonight, the fiscal issues, and it seems like, against all odds, this is coming together and it's remaining on track, and I think that it's a credit to everybody involved, and it seems like it's going to go forward, which is tremendous. Thank you.
I just want to quote Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray that day. He indicated that this was an investment that will show much dividends. And he said, even though the state is facing some fiscal hard times, we still have to invest in our urban cities. And it was an excellent day, and the Secretary Dan O'Connell was wonderful, and the manager was there, and I know Rodney Elliott was there, and Councilor Milonazo, and Councilor Martin was there. And it was a wonderful day to accept a $3 million check to improve our city. And it was just a wonderful experience. Any other questions or debates? If not, roll call.
Council Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Vote authorizing the city manager to accept a deed from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance for the property known as Parcel 3, the Park Parcel, on a plan entitled Approval Not Required Plan Lawrence Mills Redevelopment, Lowell, Massachusetts, and to establish a maintenance fund for the property and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property, whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts owns the property known as Parcel 3, the Park Parcel, on a plan entitled Approval Not Required A&R Plan Lawrence Mills Redevelopment, Lowell, Massachusetts, recorded in Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, Plan Book 218, page 56, having acquired title thereof by an order of taking dated December 7, 1990, recorded Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds in Book 5400, page 258. A copy of said plan is annexed hereto, and whereas the General Court of Massachusetts authorized the conveyance of said parcel to the City of Lowell pursuant to Section 139 of Chapter 122 of the Acts of 2006, and whereas as consideration for the conveyance, the City of Lowell shall be responsible for care and maintenance of said park parcel, including the care and maintenance of the roadways. And whereas pursuant to said legislation, the city is authorized to establish a park maintenance fund for the care and maintenance of park parcel and to collect from owners of the properties adjacent to the park parcel funds that the owners may have contracted with the Commonwealth to provide for park parcel. Reading on, now therefore be it voted that the city manager is authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to accept a deed from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Assets Management and Maintenance for the property known as Parcel 3, the park parcel, on a plan entitled Approval Not Required, and a plan Lawrence Mills Redevelopment, Lowell, Massachusetts, and to further authorize to execute and deliver any and all documents necessary for the transfer. Be it further voted that the city auditor is hereby authorized to establish a park maintenance fund pursuant to Section 139 of Chapter 122 of the Acts of 2006 for the care and maintenance of the park and to collect from owners of properties adjacent to the park parcel funds that the owners may have contracted with the Commonwealth to provide for the park parcel. Be it further voted that upon conveyance, the deed and any of the related plans and all of the documents necessary for the transfer of the property shall be duly recorded in the Registry of Deeds. Second reading by title. Vote authorizing the city manager to accept a deed from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance for the property known as Parcel 3, the park parcel, on a plan entitled Approval Not Required, A&R Plan, Lawrence Mills Redevelopment, Lowell, Massachusetts, and to establish a maintenance fund for the property and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Any discussion, debate on this particular? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, Mr. Manager, on your memo to the council, it indicates that is the city going to have to bear the cost of developing this? I mean, it does state that both, I guess both property owners will maintain it, right? Or you know, contribute funds into this maintenance fund to maintain it. But what about the construction, design, development of this lot?
That's already been completed.
It has.
The construction's been done by the state. It was designed and constructed by the state, and it's under the, this is that, the property that was a joint effort by the DCAM, the university, the city, and the private developer.
Okay. Who's maintaining it right now?
It has been maintained by the developer. We did some maintenance work last year on it as well. But up until that time, it had been the developer doing the maintenance work.
Do we know what the costs are? I mean, to maintain it, because that's what this fund is essentially going to do,
This
right?
will go towards maintaining that for any extraordinary expenses of plantings and repairing the irrigation system and things like that. The remainder of the work is simply the mowing of the grassy area out there.
Okay, so it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Very frankly, it's something that I'm not sure there was, full analysis of this done a while back.
Well, I think when we were developing
we
it-
made it right. We made a commitment to
Okay.
be part of this, and it's a beautiful park. It's really a jewel in the city, and I think it'll benefit us in the long run. But it certainly it was part of the agreement that we all the city participated in.
Thank you.
Any other concerns or questions? Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
See, I can get it out.
Moving on with the agenda. Vote authorizing the city manager to enter in an access agreement with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance and the Massachusetts Trial Court Community Service Program for use of the City of Lowell property at 360 Jackson Street, Lowell, Mass. Be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the city manager is hereby authorized to enter in into an access agreement with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance and the Massachusetts Trial Court Community Service Program for use of the City of Lowell property at 360 Jackson Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, for the purpose of segregating and removing materials from the property in preparation for the demolition of the building and the construction of the judicial center thereon. Said access agreement shall include such terms as the city manager shall deem to be in the best interest of the City of Lowell. Said access agreement shall be in accordance with the form or substantially the form attached hereto. Second reading by title. Authorizing the city manager into an access agreement with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance and the Massachusetts Trial Court Community Service Program for the use of the City of Lowell property at 360 Jackson Street, Lowell, Mass. Any discussion or debate on this? This is a very important vote. Roll call.
Council Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
A vote
Aye.
authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend funds in the amount of $2,302,072 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for homeless assistance services. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading's been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend funds in the amount of $2,302,072 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for homeless assistance services. Any discussion? Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a related matter, I see Mr. Bakey's still here. Can we get an update on the status of the application under the National Housing Service Act, the National, I believe it's under the Neighborhood Preservation Stabilization Fund? Is that application now available as part of this or in extension of that? From the standpoint of, I know this is mainly for homeless programs that we talked about earlier, but I know that the Foreclosure Prevention Task Force has been waiting for some direction relative to that fund.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. The vote that's before you today is to apply for funds under the McKinney-Vento Homelessness Act. It's a combination of both continuing funding we've had for a number of years to support the operation of a number of the homeless shelters in the city, and also to take some very significant initiatives forward with respect to that 10-year plan to end homelessness in terms of identifying permanent housing opportunities to move people out of homelessness and into permanent housing. The other program that you mentioned is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, and that is the additional block grant funding that was approved by Congress this past summer for purposes of assisting municipalities and states in addressing the outcomes or the potential outcomes of foreclosures and dealing with abandoned property before it becomes a problem for neighborhoods. Unfortunately, the city did not receive a direct block grant allocation and was forced to apply through the state for the funds. The state finally, about a week and a half ago, released their RFP that we could respond to. The deadline is Friday, and we're in the process of putting an application together. We anticipate bringing a similar vote to the one you're taking on this McKinney Act this evening regarding the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, probably to the next meeting of the City Council.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Any other concerns? If not, roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Order to satisfy judgments for the City of Lowell ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $427,169.44 be transferred from legal settlements account number 00315137-4246112 to court judgments account number 01514163-576001. Second reading by title. Order to satisfy judgments for the City of Lowell ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $427,169.44 cents dollars be transferred. Any questions on this particular issue? No?
Mr. Mayor, it's a large sum of money. Can you just give us a brief explanation as to?
Manager Lynch?
Certainly. This is, we actually talked about this a little bit at the last council meeting. This is the money that came into the city from the settlement of the MTBE case that Councilor Kazanjian raised questions on. I think I advised the council at that time that that money came in, and the Department of Revenue provided us with a number of possible ways to utilize this money. We, this year, have settled a number of court cases, some of which I believe we've updated the council on, unfortunately, the result of that has been that the court judgment's account has been seriously depleted. So this money came in at a time that was opportune for us to be able to replenish that account so that we would have enough to move forward with our other settlements. The good news is that, and I think we've talked about this, that there are a number of court cases that have been languishing here in the city for a number of years that we're getting off of the books and sort of making our way clear of those cases that have just been hanging over the city's head.
Okay, thank you.
Before we take a vote on this, I want to commend the law department for doing an excellent job on some of these cases, and they deserve an awful lot of credit. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
These next two are going to the planning board for recommendation. I'll read them. An ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Low Zoning Ordinance by adding the Hamilton Canal District Form-Based Code, and the other, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Low Zoning Ordinance by extending existing R&R zoning district to include 18-20 Weber Street in Lowell. Refer them to the planning board for a recommendation by Councilor Arman Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. Somebody have a question? Yes, Councilor Broderick.
We had a subcommittee meeting. Do you want me to give a brief report on the form-based? Did you bring up the form-based zoning as well?
Yes.
Should
This is going to the planning board for,
because we had made a recommend. We made the zoning subcommittee made a recommendation favorable recommendation to send it to the planning board for. But I just want to put that on the record.
Okay.
We did have a meeting on it and recommended sending it to the planning
subcommittee
board.
also
yes.
recommends that this goes to the planning board. Manager Lynch?
Mr. Mayor, if I could have Adam Bakey just speak on one issue related to that.
Just briefly, in the interest of maintaining a very aggressive schedule with respect to hopefully beginning the Hamilton Canal District project on schedule later this spring, we'd like to politely request if the council wishes to refer this both to the planning board for a hearing and recommendation and simultaneously schedule a hearing before this body on the second meeting in February, I believe on the February 24th. The planning board will have had time to act and provide its recommendation back to you in advance of that meeting.
Okay, that's satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. So it's going to the planning board for recommendation, will come back to us.
I'd move that we also refer it to a public hearing on February 24th.
Second.
Request by Council Martin to refer this to a public hearing February 24th, seconded by Council Elliott. All in favor? The motion signify by saying aye. The motion carries. Before we move on to subcommittees, we have some residents very patiently waiting just to speak briefly on the incident that happened Friday with an L at the Merrimack River. And I would request a suspension of the rules by Council Rita Mercia, seconded by Council Milonazo. All in favor of the suspension signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The suspensions are in order. And I believe Mr. Ignacio would briefly like to address the council on this issue. And I just want to let the council know that Friday at 2 p.m. in the mayor's reception room, there will be a meeting with Mr. Volpe, the representative of Enel, and I checked with the city clerk, and anyone who wants to attend that meeting is certainly welcome to. Manager Lynch hopefully will be there along with the city engineer, and the permit that was issued was a permit to have traffic stopped on the bridge. There was nothing on the permit indicating they wanted to clean the river, which they didn't. Mr. Ignacio?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for giving me a few moments. Friday afternoon, I was driving by. I was extremely disappointed in what NL was doing. They basically were cleaning out the debris in the river, man-made plastics and everything. They were using their equipment and dumping it over the flashboards just to let it float downstream. There was some other people that had contacted the mayor. The mayor goes down there and was extremely disrespected in words they can't even talk about here. I'd like to just quote one article that was in the Lowell Sun on January 13th. It says, from an email to Lowell Sun from a NL spokesman, Hank Sennett, said, the company's ultimate goal is to turn over bridges to the city of Lowell and/or the state because of the capacity to tap into federal funds for maintenance. He added that the company spends more than $150,000 annually on engineering fees, repairs, maintenance to the Lowell bridges. Although we have not seen a lot in the ways of results, NL has been more cooperative as of the late. City Manager Bertie Lynch says, at some points of our patience will be exhausted, and other times we feel that we are not getting cooperation. We will explore legal avenues. I was here a little bit early for this meeting, and I couldn't help but notice that NL doesn't want to pay you guys, and they owe you back taxes. That concerns me. And then for the city to pick up the cost of the bridge repairs concerns me. That also goes on how that company operates in the city of Lowell. A blatant disregard for our water intake and others downstream. They're contaminating our drinking water and other people's residents' drinking water. They potentially had damaged the historic dam by using their equipment to pull off the flashboards. That we have witnesses, we have videos of all this dumping and everything. And the thing is that you guys just had an excellent presentation on things to come to Lowell for. People want to come and see the way the canals work and the historic preservation of this city. And they're over here causing damage to it. That bothers me. Another thing is I'd like to see the task force be dissolved and we would reinstate the city sub-flood committee so that all the city councilors can be aware of the things that are going on. Because we had a flood meeting, task force, and now it's getting turned into bridge repairs, and now they're talking about trash removal. These are issues that the city council needs to be aware of. This is your city, not closed-door meetings where you guys have no knowledge of what is going on. And I was just personally wanting to address these issues so that you know how a resident feels. That's me. I live at 66 Shirley Avenue, Lowell, Mass., and that was some of the concerns that I have. One last thing is I was wondering if the city is still enforcing the Wang agreement to a now. And that could be, somebody could get back to me, Mr. Lynch. But that was it. I was just disappointed in what I seen on Friday and how they treated our mayor. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. I was just advised by the solicitor that we can't have a meeting of the whole, but we could certainly have a subcommittee, and the proper subcommittee to attend that meeting with the flood subcommittee. Councilor Elliott, could you attend that meeting along with Councilor Kasanjian, and who else is on that?
Councilor Marcia.
But if you can make that, let the clerk know that you're going to convene a meeting, and it will be posted and be proper.
Solicitor wanted to speak.
Mr. Mayor?
Just to be,
okay,
if I may, just to be clear, you could have a meeting of the whole. The only problem is if you posted it as a meeting of the whole, and then you would need a quorum in order to take up the meeting and to act. So the other alternative is to have a subcommittee, if you would have enough people to show up for the subcommittee, which it sounds
But
like
if we
you
have a
would.
meeting of the whole, and we don't have a quorum, we
Right, you would get there and then
So,
you could
I think this
do-
is the best route to go.
It is, okay.
Council Broderick?
Thank you. Should we invite Anel to this meeting? If
They are. They will be there.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. And also, I think there was a statement made that they owe back taxes. I believe that was a different company that we spoke about earlier?
That's correct.
pilot program?
Enel is current on their taxes. It's I think Mr. Ignacio was speaking of a comment made earlier about a pilot agreement. Is that what you were?
When is this supposed
You guys stated that they were 1 quarter or one payment behind.
That's not Enel, that's Lenagear, another
Another
company.
hydro plant?
It's not
Or
a hydro
power
plant, it's a power plant in the city.
Okay, I'm sorry for misunderstanding.
Council Cassandra?
Thank you, Mayor. Can we get Nikki Saunders' office involved also?
I did call the Congresswoman's office to notify them about the meeting.
Okay.
And
I also agree with Mr. Ignacio. I mean, Enel, for the last 12 months, doesn't respect our waterways, our city, or our citizens in the city here. They just do what they want to do and don't do what they're required to do. So I'll be looking forward to that meeting, and hopefully we can make something of it.
Council Martin?
Yeah, I mean, it has been clear for some time that this company does the bare minimum, and sometimes not even that, and sometimes, exaggerates what the minimum should be. But, Mr. Manager, do you know they own the plant in Lawrence, too?
Yes, they do.
So, just, when they get this debris that they scoop back into the
Pick it
river
up
at their
again, I
plant
guess.
in Lawrence, they're going to scoop it again, and they I mean, it just seems,
It's on the Plum Island.
besides not being, the right thing to do, the environmentally friendly thing to do, it seems like poor business, because it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen between now and Lawrence, but I can't imagine there's going to be less, that stuff that might get hung up along the banks, but most of it's going to go right down to the dam.
Right, I
in
think
Lawrence.
it's the material that they were taking material, as I understand it, they were taking material, and I'm just basing this on the conversation I had with the mayor and the news reports, and I think it should have been, and I think they admit it should have been handled differently. This is debris that has floated downstream from other locations from up north, and they were picking it up and moving it out so that they could clear the way of the canals. So that
I have no doubt that's how it happens, but
Right.
it doesn't mean that's what you should do with it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Council Armin Mercier?
The thing that was disturbing is that they were granted a permit to get on that bridge. And what they should have done, or we should have asked for them in the future, I hope we do,
Right.
is what are they going to do?
Right.
Because they usually, at least in the past, got a permit and they removed it and put it into a dumpster.
Right.
Not just unblock the canal so the plant up there could get the power they need.
That's right.
And be damned with the rest of the city and Lawrence and Methuen and all of those places. So I think that we should be vigilant enough to say when Corey or whoever wants to put a crane on that bridge, they got to specify what they're going to be doing. And something I think is illegal what they did. I think what they did, if I threw something in the river like they did, all right, I'd be fined, and so would everybody else. I think that EPA should be notified of what they've done. I think that the powers to be in Washington through Nikki Saunders' office should notify the people that govern them to tell them what they did and to fine them if need be, because they don't care. The only thing they were
Money.
That's all they wanted to do was free the flow of the canal water so they could get the power plant up to snuff. We could sell it to a grid someplace that doesn't even benefit the city of Lowell.
That's right.
I think they should be reported. And I think that from now on, and anybody who wants to park a crane on any bridge needs to specify exactly what they're going to do. Because if we'd have known, if the city would have known that that's what they were going to do, they probably wouldn't have issued the permit.
Right.
Because what they did, as far as I'm concerned, is got to be illegal. Well, we know it's unethical, we know it's not right, but it's also got to be illegal because what they did is they moved some contamination that was there that should be removed, and they just moved it downstream.
Right.
And I think that's not only unethical, I think it's illegal as far as I'm concerned. And EPA and the powers to be should be notified that they did that and let them get fined or shut them down if we have to, because it's not tolerable what they've done. And I think that we have an avenue open to us. And I think the avenue is they contributed to the pollution of that river, as far as I'm concerned, instead of removing the debris. And from now on, if we can notify the people who issue the permit that they need to find out what they're going to do, and if what they're going to do is not acceptable, you don't give them the permit. Right. That's plain and simple.
And probably have a city engineer or a city employee.
Absolutely.
Overseeing the project. And I just want to let the council know that Mr. Volpe, representing NL, called me at home and wants this meeting. And so we're going to entertain him. We were scheduled to meet tomorrow, but with the snowstorm, anticipating the snowstorm, we cancel that meeting and then Friday at 2 o'clock. And the clerk suggested you could have it right here in the council chambers and have it televised, so people at home could watch that. Councilor Broderick, did you have another issue? Any other issues?
No.
Okay. I want to thank...
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Ignacio had mentioned a working group meeting regularly, and I thought the intent was to come back to the subcommittee, and that hasn't taken place. Are these closed door meetings? Are they open to the public?
Well, they are closed door meetings, in that the people, there are 3 neighborhood representatives that attend. We've only, I believe, had one of those meetings so far. The other ones, in one case, a couple of the residents couldn't make it. Another case, I believe there was another snowstorm there. We were actually scheduled to have one tomorrow afternoon, and that's been postponed because of the snow. So, but we're making progress. Congresswoman Tsongas's office is involved, as well as city staff, the residents, and Anel. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a report back to the flood subcommittee probably in the next couple of weeks.
Are you not satisfied with the way the working group is going, or is there?
No, we're not satisfied at all. Reason being is because our words are getting twisted and sent it to FERC, who controls the license for now, and they're taking the words from the residents out of context, and it's not right. The other thing is that it's supposed to be for flooding issues. Now it's turning into, no, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Our residents tell us that you guys are talking about bridges, okay? And bridges come up all the time, and they have come up. And without anybody knowing what's going on in there, everybody can argue with everybody and say that's not what's happening. But you guys are talking about bridges, and that's why I gave a quote from the Lowell Sun that said, Enel wants to give the bridges to the city of Lowell and or the state.
Right.
Listening to your financial committee earlier, you guys don't have enough money to take these bridges on. It's their problem, their bridges, so they shouldn't get brought up in our meetings. They talked about, I'm sorry, our residents are telling us this, and now we have a city manager telling us that it's not being talked about. That is one of the concerns, and we had a meeting last night, that they're talking about bridges in this closed-door forum that was set up for flooding issues only.
Well, maybe we can discuss that Friday.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, and that's why we don't like it.
If I may, the issue is that the city has several issues with Enel. We have flood issues, which is all that are discussed at those flood meetings. The city staff also has bridge issues that we're working with the National Park on. We've tried to coordinate the meetings because we're getting Enel in here, we're getting the National Park in to sit in both the flood and the flooding issues. So we're trying to coordinate the schedules, but the neighborhood residents aren't involved in the bridge issues. They're only involved in the flooding issues. That's a separate meeting. So like for tomorrow, if it hadn't been for the snowstorm, we were going to meet the city staff, the National Park, and Enel were going to get together, I believe at 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, to talk about bridges. When that meeting stopped, we were going to move on to flooding, and that's when the neighborhood residents were going to come in and talk about flooding. They're not being asked to participate in the bridge discussions. And I can assure you the city isn't going to take over the bridges and take on any financial liability here.
So when the residents Are they asked to leave during the meetings? Because they're there, and they're having communications about flooding and bridges at the same time. And this is what I'm trying to avoid, and all the city councilors need to know what's going on in their city.
Right.
Okay? But this is what our 3 spokesmen are telling us.
The discussion, again, there's only been one meeting of the flood task force because the other meetings had to be juggled because of people's schedules.
I understand.
And that they are only there to talk about flooding. They're not asked to leave. They don't come in until we talk about bridges, then we talk about flooding after that with the neighborhood residents. They probably are seeing some emails that are going back and forth in which schedules are being talked about, but they were not involved in any of those discussions of the bridges.
Okay, I'm just going to say that we just disagree on this, just from what everybody's telling me, and this is
Okay.
what I'm trying to avoid, Mr. Elliott.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, understood. So the meeting, you've already tentatively scheduled NL to come in at 2 o'clock on Friday.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll ask the clerk, can members make Friday at 2? Council Rita Mercier, can you make Friday at 2?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Clerk, can you
And-
post
and
the
I'll be
meeting at 2 o'clock for council chambers for the flood subcommittee?
In the council
Right.
chambers? In the council chambers.
Council chambers,
And this is a meeting that Mr. Volpe wanted.
right.
So, and he was very apologetic to me Saturday. And I said, you have to apologize to the entire city, not just me. So, and Council Mercier, you're 100% right. There should be something on the permit that indicates they're there to clean the river. And there should have been a dumpster there disposing of the litter, but we can go on that all night long. So there'll be a subcommittee meeting Friday at 2 p.m., council chambers.
We'll accept his apology, but I think we'd like to see action on
Yes,
the items
right.
that we have before us.
Mr. Manager, you could have Lisa DeMayo, the engineer, here, as well as other pertinent personnel. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Moving on with the agenda, subcommittee reports. Councilor Elliott.
Mayor, I have a subcommittee report. We had a lengthy finance subcommittee meeting right before the council meeting, so I won't go into great detail. The meeting was continued for 2 weeks, subject to other recommendations that the manager and his staff will come in to close a $3 million gap. To make a long report, long meeting short, cities will have to experience a $3 million budget cut from local aid cut from the state. A number of measures have been put in place to date that we discussed at the meeting that'll save essentially $708,000, including overtime freeze on upgrades, no non-union increases as of January of this year, soft hiring freeze. Other expense reductions will accumulate approximately $783,000 from spending freeze on expenses, debt service reduction because of lower interest rates on our loans. So the remaining gap that needs to be closed is $557,000. Manager indicated there are options that will include union contracts modifications, i.e. a wage freeze, potential, and these are just potential, and this is why we've recessed the meeting for 2 weeks, furloughs and/or layoffs as a last resort. So we will meet again in 2 weeks before the city council meeting. The manager will come in with recommendations. They're going to continue to look at expense items or other areas of the budget to close that $557,000 gap that we need to address this fiscal year. There was significant discussion on other measures, knowing what we're looking or facing in FY010, and we'll continue to take a look at those. So that's a report of progress, Mr. Mayor, and we'll meet in 2 weeks again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a good recap. I think it was a very helpful meeting to see where we're at. We all heard the number $3 million and a little over $3 million, and it's a daunting figure 7 months into the budget, but I want to commend the manager and the department heads for the savings that they've been able to realize thus far in the plan that they put together. I think the number came in a little bit higher than we were hoping or that they were expecting, and look forward to hopefully everybody working together. I think the big thing that came out of the subcommittee meeting was the unions, all the city employees, including the council, everybody working together to try and overcome the shortfall and prepare for 2010, because it's going to be a tough year. But again, thank you to the manager. I think you did a good job getting that ready and preparing the city for the cuts, and the department heads as well, TJ McCarthy and DPD and the others for their cuts. Thank you.
It was an excellent subcommittee meeting, lasted almost an hour and a half, and I think the administration and the subcommittee brought forward concerns about the $3 million cut, and we're going to get through this and roll up our sleeves, pull up the bootstraps. We have to get through it. So, any other discussion? Except the report as a report of progress from Councilor Elliott on the subcommittee, Finance Subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All in favor, accepting the report as report of progress, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The report has been accepted and placed on file. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a report on the from the Cable TV Subcommittee. This is about the digital conversion to digital TV from analog, which was, I think, scheduled to take place 3 weeks from tonight, although I hear from different sources who will pay more attention to the news that this, in fact, may be delayed a few months. The Congress, I think, may have acted today on that. So I don't know what the new date is, but at least let me give the report, because even if the date is delayed, the facts are going to be the same. And one, I think the most important thing for people that are cable TV subscribers, if they're watching this meeting right now, there'll be no impact to those people. The only people that this is going to impact are people that watch television through an antenna, either a roof antenna or antenna on top of the set. And for those people, if the set is digital ready, then not much will happen. But if it's an analog TV, then you need a converter box. You can get a converter box through local stores, Radio Shack, Target, places like that. Cost ranges from $40 to $70, and you can get a coupon from the federal government for worth $40. But I think part of the reason for the delay is those coupons have not been issued as rapidly as the government would like, because funding wasn't in place. So I think the points of the meeting was, if you have cable TV now, it's not going to affect the TVs you have that are hooked up to cable. I would add, we had a demonstration here in the council chamber, and the quality of the picture does depend where you live, just like reception, you know, in the old days when everybody had an antenna, kind of depended where you live. But if you get the reception, the picture is remarkably clear, much more so than I think any of us in the subcommittee expected. The problem is, you know, in the old days, if you didn't get good reception, the picture would get snowy and fade out. Now, it's almost, you either get it or you don't. You know, if you get it, it comes in great, and if you don't get it, you get a blank screen. Or you start to get what they call tiling. You can see the picture break up a little. But the point is, again, I don't think I can emphasize enough, because there is a lot of confusion about this for people that are watching this meeting that get cable TV. Whether it's an analog TV or a digital TV, your cable service will take care of that, and you don't need that converter box. If you have another TV in your house that has an antenna, then you may or may not need a converter box, depending on whether your TV is digital ready or not, and you need to look for certain symbols on the TV or in the manual. So it was a very informative meeting. I think all of us learned a little bit about it, and it's just coincidental, I think, that something happened today to delay this. So.
I thought I heard that as well, that the delay in the action.
Congress, I think, approved delaying it till June.
Right.
If my memory serves.
Anyone else like to speak on? Accept the report of progress by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All in favor, accepting the report, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted and placed on file. Councilor Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is not a subcommittee report, but as an appointed member of NIMCOG, the NIMCOG Board, Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, at our meeting on January 21st, I was made aware of a free energy audit program sponsored by the DOER, the Mass Department of Energy Resources. It's available to cities and towns and wastewater treatment plants to identify areas of potential energy saving to reduce cost. In fiscal year '08, the program served 35 entities, and with increased capacity, will serve more in this fiscal year. The deadline to apply and file is April 15th. There are technical assistance and potential funding opportunities available for the cities and towns, and I'm only bringing this up, Mr. Mayor, because I urge us to apply for the free energy audit. Anything that could save the city money is a good thing, and I passed out flyers to my colleagues so that, and to you. If we could apply, that'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Councilor. Actually, we are applying for those funds through the performance contract firm that we've brought on. They're under a requirement to seek any grants to help with the cost, and so
that's
they will be
wonderful.
doing that.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
Okay. We have,
I have a subcommittee report on the CSO and wastewater treatment plant. We met last week and met with Mark Young and his staff, and just get an informational meeting, which they did, and tell us where they're at. Mostly is at the design stage right now of the wastewater treatment. They have done some work as far as the odor control, and the CSO and the Highlands will be starting in the springtime, and we plan on the meeting in 3 months from now, and they'll have a lot more information for us, and that's pretty much where we're at.
okay. Any other discussion on that subcommittee report? Accept the report as report of progress by Council Kazanjian, seconded by Council Lindsay. All in favor? Accepting the report and place it on file, signify by saying aye. The report has been put on file. Now, we have 4 claims referring to the Law Department by Councilor Armin Mercier, seconded by Councilor Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? They're on their way to the Law Department. We have one motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager to have the Law Department draw the proper vote to have a 60-day trial for handicap parking at 25 Dunphy Street, seconded by Councilor Milonazo.
And guess what? The motion speaks for itself, because all the proper paperwork has been presented to the clerk, and it's all in order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Before we adjourn, I just want to let you know that in conjunction with the school department, the LTC cadets, there are 200 of these students who have volunteered to come forward, and we're going to implement a program where the senior citizens will call Mike Damaris, 978-970-4035. They will be put on a list. If they call in from February 1st to February 15th, over 200 shovels were purchased by the business community, Enterprise Bank, Lowell Plan, Gendoc Credit Union, and Woodward and Curran. And I can't thank Chief Sergeant Robert Jakes enough, Bill Samaras, the Superintendent of Schools, City Manager's Office, T.J. McCarthy, Tom Belgard, Diane Banowski in my office, Mike Damaris as well. This program is going to go out and assist the senior citizens. The students will have to have a release from the parents and also a release from the homeowner. And they're going to be going out probably tomorrow, weekends and so forth, helping people throughout the city. And once again, we couldn't do it without the business community, and the business community in this city is the best. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn by Council Milonazo, second by Council Rita Mercier. Thank you for a great meeting. Yes.